You don't need a green card. You don't need a visa. You don't even need a social security number. One of the beautiful advantages of these loans is that you don't need to come to the US to close on the deal, to actually sign the paperwork. You can hire a notary in your country, and those paperwork can be sent by FedEx. How hard it is to buy a house from an immigrant versus an American. This is a debate that a few people have talked to me about, especially on my YouTube channel where I have people from all over the world. Today, we're going to go dig deep about what are the differences. And if you're listening this from another country, this podcast is for you because we're going to talk about how to buy an investment property in the US. And we're going to, again, dig deep. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I have flipped more than 100 homes. I have done over 200 renovations. I own a big real estate portfolio, and flips and rentals, it's all I do all day long. So let's get it. First, we're going to talk about how an immigrant can stay here legally in the US. Well, you need either a visa, a greeting card, or a citizenship. You can get visas. There's a lot of type of visas, but you can get a tourist visa, which it only allows you to be in the country for a month, 3 months, 6 months. You can have a green card, which is super tough to do, and we're going to dig deep into that. Or you can become a citizen. Now, you can find the love of your life and get married, and then you can get a green card that way. Now, let's talk about the person that it's not married, how they can live in the United States. Well, you can come in a work visa, and that's how I did. I first had a student visa, and I started here in the US, so I had a student visa. It was not hard to get because the college, they do everything for you. Then I had a year visa, which is called the OPT. And it's basically you have to work in the field that you graduated from. And you don't have a visa yet. You just have like a permit to stay here for a year. Right? Then you can go into work visa or any extraordinary ability visa. So I play professional tennis. What if you could retire in less than 10 years? Not someday, but actually 10 years. I wrote the exact roadmaps in my book, Born to Retire Young. And these are real estate strategies that I personally use to go from coming to this country with $500 to a 60-unit real estate portfolio. And every single penny goes to building schools in the Dominican Republic. So grab your copy today. Link is in the show notes. Now back to the episode. They granted me a professional visa because they thought that, and I think they agreed, right? That I had extraordinary abilities and I can just stay here. So they gave me like a 3-year visa and I stayed here. During that time, I got my first house and it was extremely hard. I tell him all the books that I have and all my social media that I got denied 17 times from a mortgage company from different mortgage companies because simply they thought that I was going to leave the country after the 3rd year. And to be honest, they're right. Like that is a risk. Like they gave me a 30-year mortgage, but they thought that I was going to leave the country after the 3rd year of living here. And then who's going to pay for that mortgage? So they totally right to assess the risk, but I got the mortgage. I'm super, super happy. I never gave up. I went through a lot of hoops and thanks to that, I have what I have today because I didn't give up. But let's say that you are in the visa. When you have a visa, it's super hard and you live in the United States, it's super hard to get a mortgage for the reasons that I just told you. After that, you can apply for a green card if you have an ability or you get married or things like that. And if you have a green card, then it's sort of like the easy path to have and get all the benefits that as a U.S. citizen will get. So green card and U.S. citizen have sort of like the same benefits. But now let's talk about the people that have a green card and what are the difference between buying a house with a green card and a citizenship. So basically, it's the same requirements. You can buy a house with 3.5% down payment. The hardest part of all the process is the credit. So let's compare two 23-year-olds. Male or female, it doesn't really matter. Let's say that I'm 23-year-old and I'm a citizen. And let's say that my friend is a 23-year-old and they just came to the United States. Well, the main difference is at 23 years old, you kind of have to have credit already. You can start building credit, I believe, at 18 years old. So basically, you can get a credit card guaranteed by your parents or something like that. There's some banks that offer credit cards that are unsecured. Basically, you go to the bank, you give $500, and if you don't, they give you a limit up to $500. And if you don't pay that back, They just take the 500 and they start building your credit that way. That is a hack if you want to start your credit. Let's say that you start like that. You start I'm a citizen. I start 18 years old. I pay my bills. I do everything right. By 23, I get a good credit. Now, let's say that someone comes into the country with no credit. That person has to start at 23 years old. So it is hard for a person to buy a house being an immigrant. Absolutely. Because that person now has to wait 2 years to build that credit. But not only that, that person has to learn. Maybe that person that comes into the country, like me at one point, I'm from the Dominican Republic. I didn't know anything about credit. I didn't know anything about credit back in my country or here. I came with 22 years old. I didn't know nothing. But I have that ability to read and to research, but some people are lost. They just want to make a living and they don't know. Hey, real quick, I want to give you something for free. This is the same flipping calculator that I use to analyze every single deal in less than 60 seconds. No more guessing, no more spreadsheet headaches, just plug in the numbers and know instantly if the deal is worth it. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the episode. That you need credit for getting an apartment for rent. You need credit for, getting a car if you're getting a loan on the car, unless you're paying cash. You need credit for pretty much everything. Without credit, it's like in the license and driver license, it's like you are nobody here. And unfortunately, to have these benefits, you need to have a job. Now, let's go back to the 23-year-old citizen and 23-year-old immigrant. So at 23 years old, they both have let's say that just have a job. We just got a promotion. We just got a job, whatever it is. So we start working at the same age. Well, there's no difference here. So there's no advantage because you need 2 years of employment for the most part for apply to a mortgage. Now, let me give you a hack that a lot of people don't know. If you start a job, let's say that you graduated from engineer. And on that college that you came in the U.S., you studied in the U.S., you went from engineer. And let's say that you did a few internships, you have some paid internships, some experience, and then you graduated and your first job is engineering. You might be able to apply for a mortgage right away because you stayed in the same industry that you studied in college. So basically, you have a huge advantage. Now, for an immigrant, it's not as easy, right? You got to pretty much start over. So the wild thing about this is in the U.S. in 2025, 62% of all households were owned by people. So you can say this way that 6 out of 10 homes are owned by people and then 4 are rented. But the wild thing is that 16% of those 65 are immigrants, whether they came to the U.S. from their countries or they came from a visa, green card, they got married, whatever. 16% own homes. So, and that number is just increasing more because there's so much opportunity here. And I think people are seeing how the truth is it's super easy to own a house if you are in the system and if you understand the system in comparison to another countries. And we're going to go in details about that. Now, let's talk about the people that live outside of the country. And this is going to be super helpful if you are listening to this and you are outside of the country or you have a friend that is outside of the country. So basically, you don't need a green card. You don't need a visa. You don't even need a social security number, which is your number. Like a social security is basically the ID, the number that represents you, right? Everybody has one in every country. Now, what you need is 20 to 30 and sometimes 40% down payment. So know that if you're going to buy a house for every $100,000, you're going to need at least $20,000. For the down payment and obviously closing cost. But not only that, you can get a loan that is called a DSCR loans. And instead of me nerding out about this loan, DSCR, and you can Google it, basically, this is a loan that cares more about the property than your actual income. And this applies for immigrants, non-immigrants, for everybody. In other words, if you find a good deal, the bank will lend you. They don't care about your own personal financials. They care about more the house. So if the house has good potential, the house has equity. Like let's say that you buy a $500,000 house for $400,000, $300,000. The bank thinks that is a good asset. So that way they take that risk. Now that risk comes with a little bit of higher interest rate, typically half to 1% more than a conventional mortgage. So in other words, if right now the mortgages are 6.3%, then your DSCR loan interest rate will be 7 to 7.3. Typically, I'm seeing it now, there's going pretty much the same, but typically you can count there's 1% higher because there's more risk for these banks to lend you. One of the beautiful advantages of these loans is you don't need to come to the US to close on the deal, to actually sign the paperwork. You can hire a notary in your country, and those paperwork can be sent by FedEx or UPS, and you can sign from your country. You don't have to be here. I have signed these loans from Dominican Republic. So it is a huge advantage in that sense that you don't have to. You don't even have to look at the house. If you have some money, you're out of the state, out of the country, and you have some money, you can get somebody to look in the house, inspect it, and know the area, and then buy accordingly. You can buy the house from outside of the country. Now, one of the things that every single loan, and this is sort of like the cushion, when you sit on the couch and then you have like a nice cushion, this is like the bank's cushion. And when I say this is a bank's cushion, is they need at least 6 months of reserves. And what I mean by that is if your mortgage, the total mortgage payment is $3,000, including the principal and interest, including the taxes, including insurance, including everything, right? Like all those mortgage payments, you need 6 months of that amount. And the reason why they want to have that is because if you default, they have some cash reserved in their bank, what we call an escrow, in order if you don't pay, and they have to foreclose you. And it takes more than 6 months to foreclosure in the Connecticut. So it's just sort of a way to mitigate. So you need to have in the bank account 6 months. Now, I don't know if you can have it in like stocks and all that. Just have it in your account, and that money has to stay there for a little bit. So in conclusion, is it hard for an immigrant to buy a house in the US? Yes. If you coming, let's say legally, is the hardest because you need to have some documentation or go through the DSCR loan or buy the house cash. You don't get the benefits of a green card holder or a citizen, which is 3.5% down payment. Your credit score could be 620 or higher. You don't get all those benefits. So it's super hard for that standpoint. Now, for a green card holder and a citizen, like a US citizen, there's no difference except the credit, right? Like if I come to the country at 23, but there's somebody graduating from college with some experience, with some credit, yeah, the US citizen will always have the advantage. That's obvious, but there's not too much advantage. So what I will recommend you, and this is coming from like my heart right now, is to, as soon as you enter any country in the world, try to find what are the things that makes you the path to ownership. And in different countries, it's going to be different. I believe that in the US is, besides the credit and the income, it's super easy. In some countries in the world, you need to be on a loan list to buy a house or to even rent a house. You get the benefit of a low down payment. You get the benefit of owning a home with like 3 to 5% down payment. That for me, it is insane. And if you're American, you're listening to this, if you're a U.S. citizen right now, you are living in the country of opportunities. I don't care what anybody says. And this is not about political. I hate talk about politics because there's never a resolution here. But owning a home should be something that you should definitely consider if you're deciding to stay in one place and you want to have a family and you don't want any landlord to kick you out. You want to build a house, you want to build a home, you want to decorate it however you want. Consider buying a house because this is a perfect example. I struggle. I have already 2 to 3 houses and I struggle to buy the house that I am right now. We're in my studio in the basement and I struggle. I actually ask for my mom if she can help for the down payment. And fast forward, I have over $200,000 in equity, clean equity. So what it means is if I sell today, I can sell it and make $200,000 cash. And the most beautiful thing about this, because I lived in here in the first 2 out of the 5 years that I owned the home, because I lived here the first 2 years, I don't get to pay any taxes, any income taxes on the gain that I have. Out of the $200,000 that I made, I pay 0 taxes. So again, I believe we live on the best system to make a lot of money and make a lot of wealth through real estate. So if you really like this podcast, you let me know. But before you leave, I have to tell you that I am releasing a brand new book. It's going to be called Master of Flips. And it's going to be available in August. If you listen this in August, then it's available now. But it's going to be available in August on Amazon in English and Spanish. And this is more than 200 renovations, more than 100 flips. This is all my brain. If you want to pick my brain, you got to buy that book. It's less than $20 probably. And this is experience from how to find the deals, how to renovate, what are the tricks that nobody tells you, and how to win these deals over people that are winning. Like, how do I win more deals than anybody? Well, I'm going to tell you in that book. I cannot tell you in one podcast because it's so broad, but it's a simple read. I wrote it in a 6th grade vocabulary, so it's easy to understand. And whether you're here in this country or outside, you should definitely order the book. So I'll see you until the next one. Peace.